Mhm.
Hello, I'm Jeff Kramer, the author of Infinite Resources, and I'm here with Roger Carlson, the author of the Saving the World Before Breakfast series of books. And together we're saving the world before breakfast. And today we have a special guest with us, Ari Malutsas, and I'll let Roger do the introductions.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Of course, we're talking about environment, energy, and so on. And here in Southern California, we had our major issue of environment back in January when strong winds caused major fires, and a big part of that was fires in the north side of Los Angeles. And uh, it's not a regular city. It's not a full city, but it's an area that's almost a city. It's called Altadena. Got a lot of burned things and areas with the National Guard. He came up, helped with the cleanup and so on, and talked to some of the locals. And he and some others got together. They're doing a bit of a charity, so we're finding out about people starting a charity and still not quite sure what they're doing, but learning a bunch of things that might be useful for other people that might have similar issues. So as we were mentioning, Ari Malitzis, yeah, National Guard, also uh, still in junior college, trying to do this, do both things. Tell us how you got into details of how you got signed up for being in Altadena after the fire and how you started working on your charity. So go ahead, Ari.
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys hosting me for first off, but basically I joined the National Guard right when I was in high school at 17, and I originally grew up in the Bay Area, and that commitment sent me to the Middle East, where I met a couple friends over the course of a year, and they convinced me to move down to Southern California. And pretty much immediately as I got sent down to Southern California, the fires in Altadena, or the Eaton fires, as well as the Palisade fires, started. So in that moment, I was taking classes. I had to drop those classes because of the unpredictable nature of what we were doing. We weren't really sure. We just got a call up. It was 24 hours, get down to San Diego. We're going up you know, um, to Los Angeles because my
Mhm.
unit's down in San Diego. So it was a little bit of a of a cluster. Um, but what ended up transpiring from that kind of situation was um, I became almost like enamored with this community. The people were very nice to me from day one. Um, you know, we weren't always doing kind of the type of work that I would want to be doing, which was, obviously in the fires, helping any sort of efforts like that. But I was working hand in hand with people pretty much on a daily basis, and everybody was super sweet to me. Um, and I met in specific a man named Jose, who was right across the street from where I was posted while I was out there. And he was just, so he was a churro vendor. He sold churros from his house. So when all the houses around him burned and his was the only one that stayed, I think there was maybe a sense of guilt or maybe a sort of need to help the people that helped his business. But he put up a tent and he was like, for the weekend, we're gonna get some donations and give them out. And as there was all this media and people looking for outlets to get their aid to the people that were affected by the fires, this sort of effort just blew up. And it was right across the street from me. I became friends with Jose because he'd walk his dog in the morning. And um, eventually I got the National Guard to donate supplies to his donation drive because they were also kind of like, wow, what's going on over here? And
Mhm.
when I got home, or right when we were getting out of there, I actually spoke to Jose like one last time and I told him, like, hey, as soon as I get home, I'm going to get a car and I'm going to start coming back. And the rest is history. That was 10 months ago, and I've been going back on 3 to 4 times per week, every week since then, um, with few exceptions. So yeah, that's kind of the story of what it is. Um,
Okay,
yeah.
this is a good time for you to pop in for a couple things. Number one, just a footnote for people is that the Eaton Fire is another name for the fire in Altadena because Eaton Canyon is where this particular fire of the multiple fires that happened in January. So there's Eaton Canyon, and then I'll be opposite of thing. I'm mirror image, but probably. But winds blew from Eaton Canyon, which is really northeast Pasadena, and scraped along the edge of north side of Pasadena, and really hit the Altadena area. So it's often called the Eaton Fire or the Altadena Fire. And then now, why don't you go to what are the kinds of things that you've been doing? And actually, this would be another thing would be how have you been doing? We've actually gotten rain in the LA Basin. How are your supplies holding up? And starting with what were the supplies that you've been providing and managing to get from various contributors and giving out?
Yeah, so I think as it progressed over the course of that time, we saw kind of a different like focus throughout it. Early on, it was a lot of clothes, I would say. We actually got like so many clothes that we had to like tell people like no more. Because I think when people look at something that they want to contribute to, that's one of the first things that comes to mind. So as a byproduct of that, we ended up having an entire front yard just full of boxes of clothes. Um, Eventually, as we partnered with more established um, like brands, we started getting a lot of baby supplies, has been like one of the most major things that we have. We have baby wipes, diapers, sippy cups, pretty much anything you could think of. And air purifiers as well was a pretty big one, definitely in the early days. At this point, there's not so much demand for them anymore, but we're convinced it's because we gave air purifiers to everybody that's in the area. Um,
Mhm.
and then we also have hygiene stuff like soap, shampoo, uh, toothbrushes, toothpaste, pretty much anything you could think of that you need for self-care we have,
Mhm.
including lotion and makeup and all of that. And then on top of that, we get like household items, kind of miscellaneous items, such as like we got like solar generators, which was interesting. We got a lot of camping gear, a lot of like mattresses. It's random, but it's whatever our partners have and they're willing to give. Our job as a pretty much intermediate is we receive and then make sure it gets to people. Um, and then leading into your second question, as far as with the weather, it's been pretty much an issue since day one.
Mhm.
Uh, because especially as it ramped up faster than we really had like the manpower to facilitate it, it was a matter of we were getting 30 pallets per week without any warehouse, any uh, really sophisticated racking system. So what ended up happening is we'd get these pallets, we'd find a place to put them, and we'd just, our team would unload everything from the driveway and find a place for them. And then if it would rain or if there was going to be any kind of storm, we would just tarp it. And then, I mean, we had a bunch of tarps. So that worked. And again, like as our position was just
Mhm.
any means necessary, get these supplies to people. It worked, but then as we try and professionalize and refine our kind of model, obviously that wasn't sustainable. So now we have a racking system. We also have access to warehouses for overflow, and we've pretty much cleaned up the area, made it look a lot more simple to manage, a lot more organized. So we're good on the storm right now, but it's been one of those things for sure.
Okay, and I guess one of the good lessons there is to learn how to organize all kinds of aid things that are going to go out. And come to think about it, there was the big fire in Fort McMurray in Alberta. Did you Jeff, did you hear anything about the agencies that came in and how they organized the aid?
Yeah, basically when Fort McMurray burned out, Fort McMurray has basically one road, main artery that leads into the city, connecting the city to the rest of civilization. And most of the residents actually fled. And so it was left to firefighters, and the people that fled received some emergency money from the province. Basically, they all got, credit card type things, and they were put up in hotels around the province until they could either return or rebuild or whatever they needed to do. Um, so it wasn't like the Red Cross going in and giving out blankets, although all of the normal charities I think were involved in helping to distribute goods.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of brings up a couple of questions that I have. So I'm trying to just picture,
Mm-hmm.
as an outsider who doesn't have any direct experience with what's going on down there. So the first question I had, you were talking about a team. So how did you build the team? That's the first question. How was the National Guard involved? And I'm assuming that basically when you were called up, then you had to drop all your studies. I think you mentioned something like that because, of course, you would have missed too much time to continue. And then where are the people living right now? Are they in camps, or how are they being looked after? So those are my three questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first question was
How did you get started and build your team?
in the team. Okay, yeah. So, um, right off rip, the immediate team was Jose. Obviously, he was the homeowner whose house is now a donation drive. And then me, because I was working with him pretty closely, I ended up uh, we were running it not as a nonprofit for a long time. He had ample volunteers, especially in the early days, until eventually we kind of realized things were dwindling, and the only way to make it long-term and sustainable was to go through the proper process of making it an official nonprofit, um, as well as actually being intentional with our outreach. So that was kind of where I fit in. Um, During the process of how to make it, a nonprofit, like a real nonprofit,
Hmm.
we needed a treasurer. So I had my best friend from Berkeley, actually, where I grew up, was an econ and pre-med guy at UCLA. So that's somebody I trusted very close and who I knew his intentions were good. And he was kind of like not really knowing what he wanted out of his schooling specifically. And I was like, if you want to do something that's cool, then come do this with me. And he was on board. So he was our treasurer, and then, or he still is treasurer. And then since then, we have also added a man named Vance to help us with our social media. And he on his own has his personal account has almost 300,000 followers, and it's growing pretty fast. So that was somebody that we trusted could scale this properly, natural growth, and kind of maybe do something a little bit different that other people hadn't done. In general, our team is very young. It's those four, with Jose being 30 and the rest of us being 21 and 22. So I think it's unusual in this space. We haven't seen it very much, and it seems to get people curious. And then the next question was,
So the people that were dispossessed by the fire, where are they living, and how are they get accessing your supplies and stuff?
yeah, so um, right now there are still people living in their lots. I think the amount of people living in their lots has decreased overall, so it's ramped down, but that's still obviously a big portion of people, um, especially once the debris got cleared out. And then what we've noticed is that a large amount of the people that lived in that area and were displaced have kind of moved to the surrounding areas. We've gotten a lot of people from Pasadena, some local to Pasadena because it's neighboring, and they got a lot of like ash and smoke. And um, then we also seen a lot of people move eastwards. In general, though, what's it called? I just remember when I first got called down, actually, it was me and my whole company. We were in a little we were in the CHP building, and
Mhm.
our first sergeant came in, and I don't know if the number is true, like it could have been exaggerated, but he came in and he was like, "All right, if you guys aren't tracking, 75% of the city's gone." So we were like, "Whoa,"
Mhm.
that definitely stuck with me because we hadn't seen anything, we hadn't driven through it, but we just arrived on the border of it, and that was like, all right, it's pretty serious.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
and you said that the National Guard has been supportive of what you're doing initially, and how are they interacting with you? And are you still, obviously, I'm assuming you're still part of the National Guard, but are you still actively working with them?
Yeah, so the National Guard isn't at all involved with this project right now. While we were in Altadena, it was kind of a big opportunity for the National Guard to actually engage with the community that it was serving. So they were very involved at that point.
Hmm.
Um, on top of having all the soldiers that we had down there, we were getting excess supplies for the soldiers, which, out of the kindness of people's heart, but um, we could obviously redistribute those supplies to people that needed them more. Uh,
Hmm.
and that was pretty great. But as of now, I'm still in, but my unit's actually down in San Diego, so they pretty much have no involvement. I will say though that we were there for about 3 weeks initially, as in like all of us were there.
Right.
And when we were all pretty much sent back, it was actually local people that didn't want us to leave. So a large portion did stay there, and we actually kept getting firefighters and other first responders coming up to us and being like, "Oh, like how long are you staying?" Like, not wanting us to leave,
Hmm.
which, as flattering as it was, a lot of us did want to, go back home and, you know.
So maybe you could just take a moment and describe the kind of work that you were doing. Was it just like keeping the peace, or obviously we're helping people in various ways, but kind of maybe go through what would a day, of that service look like?
Yeah, so I guess the reason we were initially called in was because due to the unprepared nature of kind of what transpired, there was a lot of chaos, and I don't think the looting created the chaos, but rather the chaos kind of created a environment conductive to looting. So what happened is most people weren't warned properly with enough time that the fires were going to hit them. Then the wind ramped up at such a rate where people just weren't able to react. And then in that chaos, uh, people were trying to gather their things, and people started looting. So that's when we got called up. Pretty much, we were on a 24-hour window. We might have been on a 12-hour window, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I remember like immediately getting back from school and being like, "Dang, I think I have to drop everything." Um, and we went up and immediately we set a perimeter, and the perimeter was constantly moving depending on where firefighters were, what areas were being opened up. But the idea was that the firefighters literally weren't able to do anything because there was so much chaos. They couldn't evacuate whilst also putting out fires, whilst also,
Hmm.
doing law enforcement. It didn't make sense. So that's what we were called in for. Um, what ended up happening, like what I was actually doing there, was we would have a post. Again, it moved, but for most of the time that we were there, I was across the street from Jose in the spot that I was talking about. But basically the people that were still in their homes past that line were allowed to stay in there. Like they could stay in there as long as they wanted. Now the people outside, we weren't allowed to let anybody in. So depending on how strict you wanted to be about that, um, it kind of fell on you, but we weren't allowed to let people pass that line. We weren't allowed to let people even give supplies past that line, but honestly, like I wasn't going to starve anybody. That doesn't make sense
Right.
to me. That's not my job.
Or that would
So,
be
We
counterproductive, I
won't
would
tell
think.
anybody
right.
except for
So, I mean, the idea
the
was,
podcast. That's
yeah, they were trying, and the idea was they were trying to incentivize people to leave their homes, um, because it was dangerous back there. Obviously, they were breathing in toxic,
Sure. Yeah.
uh, what was it called? There was a, oh,
well, there's
forget.
lead and asbestos were two
Asbestos.
of the big
Yes,
things.
that's the one. Yeah. Yeah, they were telling us to put on masks and then nobody did it. So I don't know. But
Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite you later.
no, I hope not, but
Mhm.
we'll see. I think that that was the idea. It was all well intended. It was, we can't keep incentivizing people to stay in there,
Mhm.
because it's dangerous and also the firefighters are trying to do their job. But at the end of the day, we can't force somebody out of their home, and I wasn't going to starve them either. So I was like, if your family wants to come meet you in the corner, that's cool. Like we're not going to do anything.
Okay,
But
and
yeah,
I can again the way I saw it because and how I connected with Ari was I've been part of the Rotary and Altadena Rotary, who, by the way, they lost their meeting place. They used to meet at weekly meetings in at the local country club, and they could rent rooms. But the thing was, the as the Rotary was involved because they lost about half their members lost their houses or had damage to their houses, and they were following it, and they were getting stuff. And along the way, of course, the National Guard provided security, so the Corps of Engineers were doing the heavy construction testing, and they went lot by lot going through it. They would tag these places, including tagging no EV. So no EV could be pulled away, but if there was an electric vehicle, that they were getting that. And then they continued on lot by lot. They say, okay, here's we've done the check, and locals. And they'd find the owners and say, this is what we want to do. On give us about on this date we could come out and we could walk through. You can say what you want to save and what you want to do, and usually they cut off about uh, 6 inches of dirt off the top, and that went off to disposal sites. So they were doing a lot of work going over every big thing, and the Corps was great. They uh, first they started with a two-star general to show that they're really doing it, and so that guy was great. He gave a speech. I'm sure he gave speeches all over, including to the Rotary, and the Rotary was collecting. Uh, they would uh, they would get a bunch of the stuff coming in. You guys, you might have been involved, Ari, with some of the trucks that came in through the Rotary, and a lot of other Rotary organizations set their things in. And so then people started contributing a lot to them. They were on the Jimmy Kimmel show and a bunch of things. And so they would give grants to people like little churches or one mosque got some help, some money to picking up uh, uh, older members that they were going to pick them up and get them food and things, and yeah, churches and different groups, and including, and I should have said this at the beginning, Frontline Relief USA, which they now have a name. We'll give it to the end. That's what they've put together for a name on it. So they invited Harry and he came and they said, and here's this, what was it, $500 check or something for
It was more. It
getting
was
some.
like 3,000. It was pretty good.
Woo! All right.
Yeah.
So that's part of how they got the stuff for people. And there was a lot of little organizations, like I said, churches, Rotary, Kiwanis, Legion, people doing things, and, and all kinds of organizations were there at the beginning. But as time went on, it got to be less and less. So you guys are still at it. So
Yeah.
tell us some more about how you're continuing.
Yeah. So our kind of idea was, how can we make this sustainable and long term? We noticed it obviously immediately within the first, as soon as that like second month hit, the amount of focus just dropped drastically because at that point, mostly the media was on to the next thing, and most of your kind of from out of state groups had gone back to their respective states or on to the next issue
Mm-hmm.
if they were bigger and more established. So at that point, that was kind of the niche we realized was I'm sure this happens everywhere. There's no way it doesn't, um, because that makes logical sense, right? So
Mm-hmm.
our plan was, all right, how can we reach the most people in the shortest amount of time and do it for the least amount of money to make it last the longest? And
Mm-hmm.
our frame of reference was at least 2 years after the initial disaster. So that's like when we're thinking of when we're back planning, it's how can we make whatever we're doing last 2 years? Um, the cool thing about kind of our setup is early on, as we were kind of defining our identity, we were kind of maybe a little too preoccupied on like supply chain, like how are we going to get our warehouse? How are we going to do this and that? These are all going to be really expensive, and it's really hard to entice donors to an issue that happened however many months ago. And
Mm-hmm.
what we realized is that there's a bunch of local organizations that already do that. They already have the supply chain established. All we need to do is pretty much link up with them and then do the work together. Uh, so one of our big partners in that regard is called LA Strong Foundation. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a massive warehouse, and they were more than willing to share with us. And they also have trucks, and they have moving people, and they have, pretty much everything that we needed that we were, you know, worried
Mm-hmm.
maybe about in terms of making it sustainable. So at that point, if they have the supply chain down, like we can fully focus on what we do, and that's distribution. So it's like, how can we make the distribution itself better? Um, right off rip, like I already explained, like I think it's hard to paint a picture of what it was, but it was a very scrappy effort. It was very grassroots. It was people would give us pallets of donations. We had plenty of like items, but they would be kind of wherever they fit in this backyard. As soon as we had the warehouse access and we were able to clear everything out and reorganize, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, look at all this space we have.
Mm-hmm.
This is fantastic. And since Jose owns the space, we don't need to worry about paying rent, for example. And then our thing is, well, if it's this simple to set up like a sophisticated rack system, and we already have partners that are donating items, and pretty much our team is volunteer, then
Mm-hmm.
really, what are the expenses? Like, there's plenty of compliance and accounting and all that. But when you compare it to similar efforts, that is way, way, way less expensive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Way more sustainable for sure. So the way we see it is right now we're in Altadena for at least 2 years, as far as distributing items. And there's nothing about our model that isn't immediately replicatable. And even if somebody would say, well, what about the lot space, for example? A lot would be much, much less expensive than any of the buildings that people are using for distributions. And then when considering our foot traffic and the amount of donations we're moving, it's it would be very worth it to any local government or donors that are trying to help to pretty much help us do
Mhm.
what we're doing. Um, like in the last 10 months, we've done over $4 million worth of donations.
Wow.
And
Okay, that's
Mhm.
impressive.
yeah, over
Mhm.
tens of thousands of families. And we track everything as of maybe after 3 months in, where we're like, okay, now we have to actually take this seriously. Um, you know, so yeah, again,
Mhm.
the measurable impact is there. Now, something that we're working on is how can we properly um, package the work that we do and deliver it to a wider audience, like through social media, and that's what we have Vance for. Um, and yeah, I don't see it stopping in Altadena anytime soon. I don't see it stopping after Altadena at all. And that's kind of where we're at.
So what you just described is very interesting because, I mean, you got this company, nonprofit organization that was set up in the spur of the moment, um, and you've obviously, I'm sure, learned a whole bunch of lessons. You're making excellent use of resources. Uh, you talk about a 2 year window. So, two questions then. Are you planning on continuing to do this kind of work beyond 2 years? And are you planning on packaging what you've learned so that other groups might be able to have some takeaways and start up their own nonprofit help organizations?
So it would be kind of a mix of both of the things you said. So just right off rip for like Altadena, for example, what I envision is that we'd have that 2 year window. After 2 years, it's harder to justify the continued aid, especially at the scale that we're doing it. So what I would put as an intermediate is maybe I'd do 2 years distribution and then 1 year where you have one volunteer that, or maybe even 6 months of one volunteer that has access to all the available resources. So if people continue coming, they could point them in the right direction. So it wouldn't be an abrupt, a rug pull, I guess,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, then as far as how we would run it after that, the way I envision it is if, say, something happens in San Diego tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, but down the line, I am almost certain that there is going to be somebody on ground doing this kind of work. Like it is a guarantee. So the idea would be that we would basically pull what we have, and use pretty much the contacts that we gain, pretty much all the equipment that we already have, and we'd basically help whatever effort is there um, continue doing what they're doing, and it would be like the way we do it is it's almost like a franchise where we would still have the name and we'd probably pay one employee on ground to pretty much oversee
Mhm.
whatever's going on. And then we just keep it running for 2 years. And then, I mean, as a general idea, it's super scalable, like anywhere. There could be two
Mhm.
things going on at once. And if we're on ground just talking to people and getting to know the community and what they need, there's no reason we couldn't just, hey, how does this sound? And get a lot, get a person, and then keep it running, right?
I love the nimbleness, like having a small organization, you're able to make decisions
Mhm.
quickly. There's no like rigid rule book that you're working towards. I'm sure that, as a nonprofit, you have to follow certain rules and this
Right.
sort of thing. But you're also able to communicate with officials and fill the holes in the dam, whatever that needs to be
Right.
done immediately. So I'm curious, how do you work with other aid organizations like the Red Cross or some other charities?
So what we've noticed is there's a lot of large well, actually that ties into the nimbleness that you're talking about. So a lot of the larger nonprofits that we've been working with kind of have the issue of how do we make sure that our donor money that goes to supplies go to people? And one of the kind of issues with distribution specifically is, especially you look at something like Altadena, um, the area got hit really hard. Pretty much all the data shows that they're underrepresented and they were underinformed about what was going on. The trust with larger institutions within a community like that, I'm not going to say it's completely gone, but it's hurt. It's
Hmm.
hurting for sure.
Hmm.
So the way to get people to actually even show up for the things that are available to them, I think, is to create trust in a way that a larger institution is just not capable of doing. Like if you have a name as recognizable as some of these other organizations, it's going to be very, very difficult to feel any kind of personal connection um, from any individual person. So the idea is no matter where we go, we're always going to be working with not large scale local leaders, but just people, like people
Hmm.
that live in the area that interact with the community on their daily on a daily basis, whether they be business owners. And ultimately, our model is fundamentally neighbors helping neighbors. It will never not be that. That's always what it's going to be. So if you're a large organization, like somebody that's been fantastic for us is Baby to Baby, they've been great. They need to make sure that they maximize their impact per what they give out. And we want to make sure that they can see what we're doing and they see the trust that we have within the communities that we serve, and they can feel comfortable knowing that it's going to go to people that need it, right?
Hmm.
One of the benefits to us being so nimble is just that, is we can react and honestly, like at its fundamental like base, we're just community members that want to help.
Hmm. That sounds pretty awesome. I'll bet that Jose, being a businessman in the area, is well known in the community, and so that level of trust was there from the get-go.
Right.
I could see that maybe being a small issue if you're going to another community. So how do you track the donations? So let's say you said Baby to Baby is giving you some stuff and it's for distribution. How do do you take the names of the people you give the stuff to, or I mean, obviously when people are donating to charities like yours, they want to make sure that the money's going where it's supposed to, and it's
Right.
not being sold to somebody down the road there.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
there's, I guess, a couple things that we do. So when they give us donations, they'll give us a receipt. So that's how we maintain, kind of record of what we have received or have currently
Hmm.
available. As
Mhm.
far as each individual item going out, we don't track the items individually, but we track the general categories of items that people are looking for. So every time somebody comes in, they fill out a Google form that pretty much it just collects, like it's super quick. Like the idea is we're trying to keep the lines moving because they
Sure.
they get
Yeah.
big. So it's just quick demographic data
Hmm.
like age, zip code, stuff like that. And then it asks what kind of aid are you looking for? And it's general groups. It's water, food,
Right.
baby
Right. Right.
supplies. But those are, you can pretty easily link what each of those, what the organization responsible for each of those is. Baby
Mhm.
supplies is going to be Baby to Baby, like
Sure.
9 out of 10 times. Um, so we have pretty much thousands of form responses, as well as every time somebody comes in, we check ID, take down name, address.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So that's basically what I was asking. So you do have a method of doing that, and it's electronically recorded. So if you're ever audited or whatever,
right.
somebody can come in and take a look at that.
Yeah,
That's
and
really
one
cool.
Hmm.
one of the other advantages to kind of our scale that again, we don't intend on changing our model. We think it works great from everything we've seen. Is that we kind of work as a middleman between people and these larger donors. Um, they obviously are not going to have the same capacity to actually interact honestly with
Hmm.
people the way we do, which is, we're seeing hundreds of people per day. It's different. So, like, an organization like Baby to Baby again would
Hmm.
come to us and they ask like, hey, um, who are the type of people that go to your donation drive? Um, what have you noticed about like are these items still helping? And especially if we have a contact in there that needs to
Hmm.
push up like, hey, this area needs A, B, C, and this is why, or this is how we know, they can reference us pretty much off rip.
Hmm.
I wrote them, you know, a letter that they sent up pretty much like, hey, like, thank you. Like, this is what people are particularly looking for. This is what they're not really taking. And that's like relevant information for them at the top level. So that,
Oh, documentation comment ducking in there.
yeah,
Uh, put some of those thank you letters in on your website. Which this I could probably say it again. Let's see. Was it Frontline Relief USA.org, I believe.
correct.
And of course, you could ask people, "Hey, would you mind if we put this up there?" And you can just scan a few pages. Uh, testimonials are a good thing.
Yeah. And it's great
Mhm.
because a lot of bigger organizations, they also actually produce their own things. Sometimes it's cheaper to make your own product and
Mhm.
buy it in bulk than it is to buy off another established brand. And when we give that out, they come back to us like, hey, have people give them feedback? What do they think of A, B, and C? And we've
Mhm.
been able to do that. And I think that's part of the reason they've, throughout this entire process, continued to work with us.
Mhm. Yeah. And of course, speaking of working with them, do you have any other organizations that are like three or four more that are your most your biggest people? You'd say it's a whole bunch more, but these three or four are some of our biggest. He said Baby to Baby, and of
Yeah, Baby
course
to Baby's
LA
been
Strong.
awesome. LA
Hmm.
Strong's been great.
Hmm.
Gem has been great. And
What's
support.
Gem?
So Gem provides is Baby to Baby is centered around stuff that mothers might need.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then Gem is just the most goods to the most people. Like I read their mission statement and I don't have it memorized, but it was along the lines of the cheapest way to get the most stuff to the most people. Um,
Okay. And so it's GEM.
yeah,
Is that
global
an
empowerment.
acronym or?
Yeah, it's a global empowerment mission.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, Baby to Baby. That's pretty self-explanatory. You
Right.
got a couple more that might like to hear their name on the
Um,
podcast.
yeah, and then another one that's been great for us is support and feed, or it's like support plus feed. But they've been providing us hot meals to give out all our distributions for people, and
Hmm.
every time it's something different. So it's interesting seeing what people gravitate towards and what people avoid. But um,
Hmm.
hot meals are always people always need them, and especially right now, people have been particularly looking for food of any sort.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, those are like the main ones. We've been getting also like in-kind donations from Whole Foods as well. They've been pretty great.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And yeah, if you got some more, you can send that to us, and we'll put it in the documentation at the
Okay.
beginning of the things.
Yeah,
And then
for
the
sure.
next question that I would have was when Ari and I were talking on Thursday, and I was like, well, going, you're working for free for a couple of years right now. You might have like one person running the warehouse and something, but it's mostly free labor, and and you can say we still don't know exactly what we're doing, and what are our possibilities that we see for the future.
So right now, I'll break it down in
Hmm.
army terms, right? So our
Hmm.
25-meter target, right? That's immediate. Right now, our only goal is how can we make what we're doing more effective? And we
Hmm.
look at that through the lens of efficiency as far as
Hmm.
quickness and just volume pretty much. Then we look at it through safety, as in, is it
Hmm.
walkable? Like, are we putting people in danger? For example, when there was like ICE agents roaming, like, are we putting people in unnecessary danger to receive
Hmm.
whatever it is? And
Hmm.
then
Or your
three,
stuff on the shelves if you get it stacked too high.
yeah, or there was tripping hazards because, there was just a lot of stuff. Um,
Hmm.
and then number three is dignity, is can we make this um, the cleaner it looks, the more dignified an experience it is, right?
Hmm.
I think already it's such a difficult threshold to cross to get people to show up. Um, especially within different cultures. I think of my Cuban grandfather. I think it would be very difficult to convince my Cuban grandfather to go to a donation drive and wait in a line to receive donations. Point blank, right? So it's how can we bridge that gap? Um,
Hmm.
so that's our immediate goal. We're not thinking about scaling. We already understand the model that we are. We already understand our role within the efforts
Hmm.
that are going on. It's just how can we do it better, right? That's the great thing about having the partners that we have. We don't need to worry about
Hmm.
managing the warehouse. Um, our only job is how can we get people to show up and receive the aid they need. So,
Hmm.
um, right off rip, it was cleaning everything out, reorganizing, making it more streamlined. Um, the next thing we're kind of thinking is how can we kind of cut through that whole process of like taking down the name and then
Hmm.
having them fill out. We've also noticed that the QR code, a lot of older folk really struggle with it. Like it just takes time and I guess it's just not as quick. Like I thought it was like,
Hmm.
oh, if we put a QR code, then that's going to be great because then they'll just fill it out while they wait and then they'll show up and then they're good and we'll keep it. It didn't work like that. Or it's currently not working like that. It still takes time. A couple Saturdays ago, we had a line that was like 2 blocks long. Um, yeah, it was crazy. People were waiting in there for like over 2 hours, the latest. It's just the nature of the kind of work we do, but how can we make that quicker? That's my goal. That's my
Hmm.
intention. We were thinking again, maybe there's apps where you can kind of like streamline the sign-in process. But it
Hmm.
goes back to the same thing where it's like we have a massive population of people over the age of 45, and a lot of them have been struggling with kind of like the technology stuff. I've seen some donation drives do paper, but then if we do paper, then who's going to sit there and sort through hundreds of stacks of paper? I'm not going to do it. So, you know, finding that middle ground that works, that makes it effective. And then we think about dignity, there's kind of a nuance to it because it's not just let's make it look as amazing as possible because we don't want to get caught in a situation where we veer away from our roots or the thing that made us special in the first place, which
Hmm.
was kind of that scrappy grassroots feel, right? If it gets to a point where it's overly professional, it loses its kind of like
Hmm.
personality, and we don't want to do that. So right now, we're trying to add lights at least, like
Hmm.
little things that just make it look more exciting and vibrant,
Hmm.
without kind of stripping it of what makes it so special.
Yeah, you're kind of backing into marketing and administrative supply sergeant sort of supply sergeant and sales on the outside of the military.
Right.
So those are yes, you're on the practical side of making things work.
I've always defined my role as, Jose has this vision of helping people, and I think that's great, and that's why I gravitated towards him and, fell in love with his mission. And then my job is how can I allow Jose to do that? Like that's
Hmm.
it. I'll bring in the people that we need to make it happen so
Hmm.
Jose can do his thing
I mean, you
and
got the
that we can,
accountant to keep to put the books right.
yeah, and
People will
Tim.
be looking at them at some point.
Yeah, so Tim is our treasurer, and again, since our team is so lean, um, we're all Swiss Army knives. We all do a little bit of
Hmm.
everything. So we talk budgets together, we talk spending together. Um, no one
Hmm.
person is in charge of any one thing. And
Hmm.
with Tim, for example, uh he's not here today, but he's incredible at speaking to people, like
Hmm.
to an extent where I went to high school with him and he wasn't that great at it in high school, but he's trained himself to be just very, very well spoken. He's
Hmm.
great with other people. And so what he does a lot of the time, I would say most of the time, is outreach, and he's great at it. So,
Hmm.
without going too far into it, the idea is we're lean, but everybody kind of is versatile and
Hmm.
adaptive.
Yeah. And you're
Well, it's clear that your passion shows through. I mean, just the way that you're talking about it, that there's a lot of excitement in your voice, and clearly you've dedicated, the next 2 years to this. Now, are you still volunteering? Are you receiving any payment? How are you looking after yourself, during this time? Do you get some sort of stipend or something?
So that's one of the questions I get a lot. So I, as soon as I finished high school, went to the Middle East for a year. And out there, they gave me food, they gave me a place to sleep. I didn't spend any money, and none of it was taxable. And I got hazard pay, and it was great. So I didn't touch that money. I still have it. So since then, I've been over here just living off that. My dad has been like kind enough to help me with groceries because that's gotten so expensive as of late. And like that
Hmm.
allows me to kind of go out and explore my passions, which honestly is helping people in any capacity. And
Hmm.
this is always going to be something that I do, I'm convinced, forever. Um, and if I had the bandwidth for it, I'd love to help with other things. Like there's a lot of different things that I feel passionate about and I'd love to get involved. This is just kind of the opportunity that presented itself and that I've been learning from, and it's been great.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I'm glad that my passion is apparent because like I love what I do. It's great.
Hmm.
Well, I've always found, like I've done some volunteer work with various groups, and I've always found that people are very appreciative, uh, especially like in a situation where, it's coming down to the basics, food and water and
Hmm.
other
Right.
necessities like that. So that's it's definitely a good work. Um,
Hmm.
but I hope that, in the future, like we need people with the kind of passion that you have, but it doesn't mean that you should put the rest of your life on hold.
Mhm.
So hopefully you'll be able to afford some sort of a salary to,
Yeah, I've always said priority one obviously is making it functional. Priority two is getting Jose paid well
Hmm.
before me.
mhm,
I'll be fine. I'll
Hmm.
figure, whenever we hit that scale where it's
Hmm.
necessary, then sure. But as of now, I haven't been paid. I still volunteer. I go up 4 times per week still. Um, the drive is an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back.
right.
I always tell people it's not just a part-time job. It's something that I do a lot, but I'm able to do
Hmm.
school on the side and ultimately like I care very much about my academics. I love college. I didn't like high school, but I love college.
Hmm.
And I kind of look forward to seeing where school takes me as well as this. But yeah,
Yeah. And
that's
you might be able to work what you're doing in with a course, like a study project that you might get some credit for. I could see
Mhm.
business or sociology or both, where you can
I
say,
think
"Hey, yeah, I'm running this organization, and here's some of the lessons I learned." And your advisor might say, "Well, read this book to go along with it," which might be very useful in putting your your organization, getting it more organized and
Hmm.
keeping it going.
I think if I do my job well enough, um, they won't need me on ground at a certain point. Um,
Hmm
2 years from now, when it's in wherever the next natural
hmm
disaster happens in California. Um, I won't need to be on ground 4 times per week, at which point
hmm
I can fully focus on, well, not fully, but I can, if you think of dials and,
hmm
they both have to add up to 100, I can maybe crank down my frontline work a little bit, school a little bit. But right now I'm able to make it work. It's a lot, but
hmm
as long as I enjoy it,
hmm
that's great. I still intend
Cool.
on probably my career being something through university, and then this just being like something that
hmm
I care deeply about and continue doing because of that. Um,
hmm
you know?
Yeah. I think this will benefit you any kind of work you do in the future. And or hey, you might write this is the book of this is the adventure we had doing aid in Altadena on the after the Eaton Canyon fire, and you
Yeah.
might become a good speaker too. I can see you've gotten
I
better
hope
just
so.
in the last 3 times I've seen you. So
It's funny. Like growing up, I was very introverted. Like I was not social. Um, Tim was the same way. And actually watching Tim kind of evolve into the kind of person he is has like really inspired me. He's like, "Oh, you don't have to worry. You just go up, just be nice and people will be nice back." It's like, "All right." And
sounds good.
just getting reps, it
hmm
works, it's great.
hmm
Well, that's a pretty amazing story, and
hmm
it's always nice to hear uplifting stories. We have disasters all the time, but it's nice to hear when people come together and work to make it better for others. One of the things that you had mentioned was the stigma of coming in now, and I mean, at the one on the one hand, you're saying you got lines going around the block, but then some people aren't coming because they feel that oh well, I'm not going to accept charity or something along those
Yeah.
lines.
hmm
And it shows in our demographic data. The people that are showing up are predominantly mothers and predominantly much older. Um, it's very rare to see, for example, young men at the donation drive unless they have kids. And usually, and this wouldn't be reflected in our data, but I could tell you right now from personal experience that most of the younger men that show up bring their children. And I think that's maybe to maybe dilute some of that feeling of potential shame. Um,
hmm
and again, so, it's impossible to directly link the two because what I always say and what I told Baby to Baby is that over 60% of all the people that come over are looking for baby supplies. Um, and it's hard to really link if that's because people with children are more likely to show up for aid, or if it's because Baby to Baby was one of our really big partners early on, that people with kids kind of saw us as the place to get their kids stuff, right?
Mhm.
So
hmm
I can't directly link the two, but from my personal experiences, I feel like it's hard to deny some kind of link there, you know?
So, going back to that stigma, have you actually seen like a situation where, say, I don't know, a 20-something guy is in line without children, where people are harassing him and saying, "Why are you here?" or something like that?
No, I think it's more just like um just less likely to show. People don't usually, I think, give each other problems um unless they like cut a line. Like that's usually gets people razzled when somebody cuts in the line. But
It's me razzled, I know that.
yeah, assuming everybody does what they're supposed to and gets in line from the back of the line, um, people are generally kind to each other. I think it just comes with the territory of being it's a small, unincorporated area, kind of. maybe not everybody knows everybody, but a lot of people know a lot of people. So it's kind of the, oh, if this person in my life sees me waiting in this line, like how are they gonna see me, Um, maybe the kind of the need to like look put together, like, oh, I'm a family man, I don't need this. Uh, Again, I think it definitely plays a role. I feel like there's no
Mhm.
chance it doesn't. Um, But yeah, people are generally cordial with each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's this this is kind of funny, um, but sometimes people will come up, to the front and be like, oh, like the line, oh, like I waited, like they'll kind of be a little bit maybe not in the best mood to the volunteers, which, fair enough. I don't like waiting in lines either. But it's what I find interesting is the reason the line takes so long is because we are thorough with each person so that they could get everything they need. So
Yeah.
somebody's like, "Oh, the line took so long." And then they're going to take their time once they're in. So that's why there is a line,
That's
you know?
ironic, isn't it?
Right. So it's
It's
like, you
kind
know
of,
what? We're not going to treat anybody any different. If you want to take your time and look at what we have, that's cool.
yeah.
But you got to expect it. But that's something, how can we make it quicker? Because not only would it actually like make the experience for the people better and theoretically fit more people within however long the working day is, but also I think if people see that there isn't a line, they're more likely to engage with it. I think it's a clear deterrent when you see like 2 blocks of line, or maybe it isn't. Maybe they're like 2 blocks. There must be something good over there. I don't know, but I would think that it would be a deterrent for sure. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where we're at right now. 50-meter target is start to plan what's next. Right, we're almost at the 1 year mark.
Mhm.
Things are probably going to change in the second year. We've never done this before, so we really don't know
Mhm.
what that natural progression looks like. But, we're going to find out.
Mhm.
So,
So are you
Yeah.
finding, first of all, with all those long lineups, are you running out of supplies when people get there and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're out of formula or whatever, come back tomorrow or this sort of thing?
um, I would say that with any given item, it's cyclic. Um, because our partners
Mhm.
give us kind of what they have, right? So sometimes they have a bunch of diapers. Or sometimes they have like tents and sleeping bags and stuff like that. Like people are going to get really excited about it.
Uh,
Mhm.
But sometimes they don't have that, but they have soap. And sometimes they have a lot of soap. So then sometimes we have 10 pallets of soap and then we don't have a whole lot of, I don't know, something else. So it depends. Like people will show up and they'll be like, "Hey, do you still have this?" And it's like, I don't know." And then they'll be like, well, we'll know, but it's depending on what's going on, and then they'll be like, "Oh, do you know when you're gonna get some?" And it's like, "Nope." Like it's,
yeah.
that's
So
that's
it's not predictable like a regular supply chain. It's
no, we
kind of
try and make it
haphazard.
more predictable, and certain items are like diapers, for example, but
Mhm.
you know, others not so much.
Mhm.
I would say most are unpredictable.
And how are people taking the stuff away? If they're standing in line, do they still have vehicles and everything then? They just load it in the car
Yeah, yeah. Usually they'll drive up or park somewhere in the area. That's another issue that we have, but you know, as far as like the issues that I'm more concerned about, it's lower on the priority list. But I know that we maybe ruffled some feathers within like I don't know, like the sheriffs, for example, and that's n nothing like that we
Mhm.
did or that they did. It's just, I'm sure they get a lot of complaints about, oh, but there's traffic in this area, or like maybe somebody will block like part of the bus stop, and we
and
always tell people not to do that. But,
yeah.
ultimately, when we're stretched pretty thin and we're more focused on distributing than managing the rest, uh, you know, that might bother some people. But, as far as making it sustainable, yeah, like it is within our intention to
Mhm.
kind of develop some kind of relationship with. the people that, the sheriffs, for example,
Mhm.
that actually like look over and it is relevant to them if it's unsafe, for example.
Sure, of course.
Hmm.
So I'm just trying to picture now when you're talking about diapers and formula and all this sort of stuff, clothes, and so I'm almost imagining your operation would be like a shopping center. Only
Yeah.
like, do you literally have like shopping carts that people can use to
No,
take
but
their
we have
stuff?
bags. We have like bags, and we encourage people to bring their own because that's one of those we get bags donated to us. So it's
Sure.
like when we don't have bags, we're like, well, we have boxes, here's a box. But we tell people to bring their own, just that's safer,
Yeah.
Um, you don't need to
Hmm.
rely on whether or not we have anything. But yeah, the way I would describe it is imagine it's outdoors. It's a big 20 by 40 tent that's organized with shelves stacked full with stuff.
Hmm.
Everything's free. People always come up. They're like, "How much is that?" Free. Don't worry
Price
about
is
it.
right.
Yeah.
So, how many people were displaced by the fire? Again, just to give the viewers who aren't familiar with it, uh, like you said, 75% of the area was burned, according to the two-star general there. But how many people does that involve?
Mm, I forget the exact number, but it's like within the realm of like 5 to 10,000, I believe. It was quite a bit.
And the numbers of people that you help, obviously you've got this all electronically tabulated. So how many are you helping every month?
So every week, we do about 300 to 400 individual families, with the average family having, well, actually, households, I should say, because maybe they're not all family, but the
Sure.
average household has about 5 people right now. So, that's been one of the like, when people ask where people ended, I think a lot of people ended up consolidating because we're getting
Hmm.
households of 9 people, for example.
So
Um,
you're thinking like 1,500 people a week then.
Yeah, is like a rough estimate, as far as the amount of people that we're impacting.
That's pretty
Hmm.
amazing. And then I guess if you're looking at you know, I'm presuming you're talking boxes of diapers, so that's like 50 diapers a box or something like that, or
Yeah, we usually give out like the packets of the diapers. So we don't, like, I don't know off the top of my head how many diapers are in each of those, but we allow people to return once per week.
right.
Um, in theory. I would say generally people don't show up once a week. Um, but that's like our limit, and the week resets on Saturdays.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's great that you've got that
Hmm.
all electronically tabulated and you can, you know, do you ever get people from the same household coming back? Like it's like, oh, I'll send my daughter this time.
That's early on. That's why we started keeping track, actually. Yeah. So, I mean, the form is great for what's relevant to, I guess, me personally. It's what do people want and where are the people kind of geographically located and how many people are in the households. Like that, there's more information on there, but that's the main stuff that I personally look at. Um, the reason we spreadsheet the ID, we used to just check ID and then, all right, you're good.
Mhm, mhm.
What we noticed is we had a notebook and we just write it down just quickly, just all right, just so we have it on record somewhere. Eventually, I was like, all right, let's start spreadsheeting the notebook information just so we could like visualize it. And we are like, oh, here's that address again. Oh, here's the address again.
Mhm.
And we are like, dang, like how many air purifiers did they get?
Oh
That's
wow.
not right.
Yeah.
So, um, because you have these massive households with so many people in them, it was very easy to pull off. And we're like, all right, like again, we work, we're flexible, and then we just refine. And that's what we've been doing since day one. Like right now, I would say it's a very smooth operation, like very smooth. Everybody that shows up, they know if they're at their limit with air purifiers. They know if um, like they know that we know if they're trying to take advantage. And that's the
That's
main
good.
thing.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things. Anytime you're working with charity or giving stuff away for free, there's always people who are going to game the system and try to abuse it and
Mhm.
um, do something that it's not intended for, and that's unfortunate.
It
Part of
is.
humanity. But
Mhm.
it sounds like you've got that a little bit under control, and that I love that you've got everything electronic. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, do people ever show up without ID or initially or?
They do, but if sometimes in their emails they have a gas bill that works. Like I just need to see the address and your name on there. Like that's great. But yeah, honestly, the kind of that realization early on of people taking advantage um was not easy. Like I remember seeing somebody posted um one of the air purifiers on OfferUp or something,
Right, right.
and I felt horrible. I was like,
Hmm.
oh,
Hmm.
like, because I don't want to be mean, right? I don't want to be confrontational. Like, I'm there because I want to help people. And I love when I get to do that. Kind of that aspect of it was really rough. And I remember with like seeing, the first time on OfferUp being like, fuming because it was not just that they took advantage of us. It was who's gonna buy it, right?
Hmm.
Like it's people that need it and they could get it for free from us. That's the whole point. That's why we're giving our time and our effort, and that's why we're doing this. This is why our partners are giving us this stuff. So it was just it's so frustrating. And it happens. Like there's at a certain scale, people are just going to do it here and now or here and then, whenever we see it and we catch it and we catch it a lot, they're
Yeah.
banned. Yeah. And
Oh,
and that's
so
it.
yeah, I was just that was going to be my next question. So you saw this person do this, and you basically said, okay, you can't come back anymore. That's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll ban them. So actually on the spreadsheet, you could search for, you know, uh
Well,
like
I suppose that's a bit more lenient than looters will be shot. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean but oh, when people try, like I've had some crazy experiences. I promise, like I was very lenient as a guardsman. I was very lenient. I'm still very lenient at the donation drive. Like as long as you're well intended. But like when people like lie to my face, oh, I don't like it. It's
yeah,
like,
of course,
really, why are
nobody
you making
does.
this difficult? Um, like I remember somebody, I was like, oh, we'll help you. Like you can get essentials, but you're maxed out on purifiers. Like we can't give you another purifier, but anything else you need. And then they tell the volunteer, like, oh, he said yes. And like they said that right next to me. I was like, no, I didn't say yes. Like you they're maxed out. And then I turn around and she's like, oh, he said yes. He said it's like, no, like that was one of the only times I ever got like really mad at like as a volunteer where I was like, no, I said no, like no, like
I'm
why?
going to escort you from the premises. You're
Yeah.
banned for a week.
You know what? Maybe I was too lenient because we didn't even do that. We still gave them their other stuff. But you know, like personally, I was like, really? Like I was so nice to you. Like, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, it's human nature. There are some people that doesn't matter. Well, I mean, there's psychopaths and people that don't care about other people's feelings, or people who have a grudge against society because they think that they've been downtrodden or whatever, and maybe they have. But
Or people
they,
that
they,
have an
they think,
addiction.
No,
yeah,
and it's
They're the
tough.
greatest entrepreneurs in the world.
It's tough. Oh, yeah.
no, everybody's got a story, and
Exactly.
everybody, from their perspective, they think they're doing the right thing. So,
No, that's one of the tough things that, obviously that's something that Jose and I take pretty serious because it's like almost personal to our effort. Um, but like it is difficult because one time we banned somebody and then they sent us a message like basically like saying like, oh, the money like helped me make ends meet. Like they apologized and whatever. They're like, all right, like like we won't show up, but we're grateful because and it's like, um, it sucks because like at the end of the day, that's why people show up is because they need whatever it is that we're giving. So it's
Hmm.
like I try to be empathetic of the fact that we only give out a certain amount of things and of certain varieties. And obviously, we can't reach everything that people need. Like, we can't pay their rent, for example,
Sure.
or, and the amount of expenses, like, really, we're easing a lot of the day-to-day things, but the amount of expenses incurred from kind of everything, like, it's a drop in the bucket, is kind of how it feels sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's.
You mentioned can't pay people's rent. Do you have like funds that are emergency funds that you guys distribute or anything like that, or is it just goods?
So early on, we had people that would donate us like gift cards. That was like the closest we got to actually like giving money out was the gift cards that were donated to us.
Mhm.
We don't give out money because pretty much anything that we do have, it goes into how it's operational expenses like accounting and all that.
Mhm.
Filing, everything was expensive.
Hmm.
Insurance is expensive. And then um like the amount of just everyday expenses that you would never think of, like we're like, wow, like all of a sudden we need a bunch of trash bags. We needed a bunch of bins for trash
Mhm.
because we wanted to keep it clean. That was
Shelving.
Yeah, the shelves are like a couple hundred each. Like it's
Right, right.
crazy.
Hmm.
For, when it starts raining, like this fresh on my mind because we were like, oh, it's gonna rain next week. The last, on Thursday. So we had to go to the store and we bought all the clips they had, like the ones for because we have tarps, so we had to
Mhm.
just clip the tarps up. So it's like the heavy duty metal clips. We just bought all the ones they had in the store um to fully tarp the whole
Yeah.
setup.
Hmm.
But all that, yeah, it adds up in a way that we didn't think it would. But still, when you look at the full picture, which is how much have we distributed and how many people have we helped
Hmm.
and how expensive was it, it's still like, all right, that's some good bang for your buck right there. Yeah.
So now, given that you've been doing this for a year, and everybody's volunteering and stuff like that, have you considered like approaching the state of California and saying, "Hey, we're doing a good service here. We need some help," and trying to get some sort of funding to carry on that? I mean, I don't know what your situation is in terms
Yeah.
of finances and stuff, but I'm thinking long-term support, right?
Yeah. So actually, this is kind of like from a strategic standpoint, it's really hard for us at our current scale, especially without having filed taxes as a nonprofit yet. That's one of the big thresholds. A lot of people like need your 990, which we're not going to have till we file our first taxes in May.
Mhm.
And then some need 3 years of a 990 for some of the bigger ones. So one of those kind of strategic talking points for us is all right, if we're not really competitive for some of those bigger grants, it's how do we set ourselves up to A, get funding and B, be competitive for them in the future. And um, for A, immediate funding, well, our idea was, all right, nonprofits don't really use social media as much as you would think,
Mhm.
like at all. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of them have ran a certain way for many, many years. I was surprised, like Red Cross, for example, has many social media outlets, but if you look at any of them, they have maybe 100,000 to like 300,000 followers, which for a brand that everybody recognizes is
Yeah.
like shockingly low. So that was one
Mhm.
of our ideas is, well, we need to basically, I think, until we're competitive for bigger grants, it's live off small dollar donations. And how can we bring those out? And it's through social media. So that's kind of what Vance's focus is. It's not necessarily raising money on social media. His focus is raising engagement on social media, which we think if we do right, in the long run will translate towards sustainable donations.
Well,
Uh,
hopefully, you guys will be able to include this interview on your website or something,
yeah.
and let people know
Mhm.
a bit more about what it is that you're doing, and I hope that it helps you to bring some money
Mhm.
in. It's
Yeah.
interesting that what you just described, though. Every startup that I've worked with over the years has exactly the same problem. It's like, okay, the government, oh, the minimum requirement for this grant is you have to have been in business for at least 2 years and show, positive cash flow and this sort of thing. And it's like, well, I wouldn't be asking for the money if I didn't need
Right.
it.
Yeah. No, 100%. And the
Mhm.
other kind of component to becoming competitive in the long run is the unfortunate truth of the world is that the thing that matters most is who you know, right? So for us, it's just any opportunities to talk to people. I'm Tim, who I was telling you about, like literally just goes out to cafes and just talks to people. And it's a slow
Mhm.
snowballing process of just, the more people you know, the better your chances are of somebody knowing somebody that could help. And that's kind of the phase that we're in is, um, none of us really know many people in LA, and we're all just kind of you know, getting out there. Uh,
Mhm.
Mhm.
you know.
Well, you
I leave all
certainly,
my socials open,
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
Like I'll send
You-
emails and like, hey, this is my
uh,
number. Feel free to
you,
talk to me.
Mhm.
you've certainly shown your dedication driving from San Diego several times a week at your own expense to help
Mhm.
people. And I don't know. I hope that they at least reimburse you for gas once in a while or something.
So actually, I bought the car specifically so I could commute, and I bought a older Tesla because I knew that I didn't have to pay for charging. So
Nice.
yeah.
Good on you for that. So, Roger, where are we at? It's about 9:30 here. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
So we've been doing about, yep, we're getting toward an hour and a half. We've been keeping we've been keeping you busy and
Yeah.
going
No,
a
it's been
long
great.
time.
I've
I think
enjoyed talking to you guys.
if there's anything else that we could finish up, otherwise we could say we'll declare victory and and button it up for tonight.
I think,
I just wanted
yeah.
to say I'm looking at your website now, and obviously you got the donate now button and all that stuff, but it's a very nice, clean looking website. So,
Thank you.
for anyone again who wants to check it out, it's Frontline Relief USA.org.
Yeah, and then
So,
maybe finish up on it to say usually we're talking about pretty high tech sort of things, and it's we're more on the theoretical side on a lot of it. Like this person wrote this, but dealing with somebody that really is on the ground doing something, and hey, we're talking about saving the world. Well, dealing with a crisis like this after a disaster, that is that is a really important thing. So this is a good thing for us, and
mhm.
hopefully when we put it up on the podcast, hey, you can tell people to do like our podcast, and
Yeah.
that'll get us more things. And you can pull down you should be able to pull it straight down from YouTube, so you can make a copy of it and have it like put it on your website as well, or parts of it. You can that's what you get your social media person to cut out things for a sizzle reel or
Yeah.
uh, things emphasizing certain aspects, and so they can just click on it to like here's what it's like dealing with this, and you get a little 5 minute blurb or whatever. So anyway, yeah, thank you so much for this. We learned a bunch of stuff, and yeah, there's always disasters of one sort or another, big storms, fires as we've known here.
Hmm.
Basin might eventually get a tsunami. Yeah, we do have the things, and of course, like, yeah, likewise, Arizona, places close in the neighboring states. So it's like these things will come up again, the same sorts of stuff.
Right.
The
It's inevitable
carpenters
that,
showed up in the Carolinas after the big hurricane and said, "Hey, we'll build some sheds for you." And some of the local governments embraced it. Some of them said, "No, you can't. People can't live in those. They've got to fill out all the paperwork."
right.
So yeah, hopefully, good. Cross your fingers, you won't run into any of those problems.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hopefully California never has another natural disaster, but when
Yeah.
when it
Mm.
does, we'll be there,
I think
Yeah,
California is like the epicenter for national disasters.
Yep.
Although
yeah.
I can't speak too loudly because my province of Alberta has had more natural disasters than any other province in Canada either.
Oh
So,
man.
but
Mm.
anyway, it's been a wonderful a pleasure to meet you, Ari. I really love what you're doing. I wish you all the success, and I hope that you can get the government funding. I hope that you can eventually, if this is what you choose to do, make a living from it and keep on doing the good work. So good on you.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's been great
And
meeting you, and I've enjoyed this conversation.
okay. Yeah, us
Likewise.
too. All right. So long, everybody. And Harry, if you don't hear from me in a week, give me a call and say, hurry up and post that stuff and cross your fingers that uh, it will download good on my system.
Yeah, and if you like this content, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds like a great plan. Okay. Good night to both of
Goodbye.
you.